let's get to this. The final point. Gav's document. Yes, dear viewer, I've downloaded it and had a scan through it so you don't have to, but the option's there if you want to. I'll put the link in the description of this video. I wouldn't advise it though. So it's without doubt that Gav's document is going to be flawed and try and push an agenda. An entire document on optics, and having seen the bullshit he's come out with before, you know that somewhere in here he's going to try and make out that objects can disappear from the bottom up. And I'd just like to remind everybody, somebody who supposedly knows physics and maths and has a good concept of geometry, who has got this really annoying habit of constantly talking about Riemann manifolds and basically trying to make himself sound like he really does understand the topic, would know that this is bullshit. Would also know how the horizon works in a sphere instead of pushing the idea that there's left to right curvature. So, once I'm done talking about this wee bit and pointing out the flaw in it again, just think about that. Just think about Gav's position. The guy is either a lying piece of shit who doesn't have any of the qualifications or understandings that he claims to have in these subjects, or B, he does understand it all and he's just a lying piece of shit Poe who's basically looking for attention and has found a bunch of people who aren't smart enough to see what he is really all about and falls for all his fucking sophist bullshit. So this is Gav's document. Now, there's basically a big bunch of waffle about angles, light coming into the eye and blah blah blah, but we'll skip a lot of repetition. It's actually, you know, in my opinion, it's not a well written document, but hey, what do I know? I'm just a layman. But we finally get to the main point here, and after this point, it's, you know, I was losing interest before I reached it, but I stuck with it until I found this, and then after this I really couldn't give much of a shit about the final couple of pages. Section 4.8 is where Gav starts to work his way towards his bullshit about objects disappearing bottom up. So you can see that he's got these diagrams that represent the basic concept of perspective. This would represent the eye, this would be the angles subtended to the eye, and as we move further from the eye, the angle gets shallower and shallower, and the blue line represents eye level. Now, this isn't a literal line, obviously. It's just a line that denotes your centre of your field of view, your field of vision. Right? We all understand that when you're looking at anything in any orientation, there is a point, the centre of your eye, and that's where something is lined up with you. So that's all the blue line represents. Okay? It's an indicator of a virtual space. Here we get the point where Gav talks completely out of his arse. So he's trying to make the point that if the eye is positioned closer to the surface, the angle subtended here would be shallower. In general, that's fine. By virtue of being closer to the surface, obviously. So here we've got the point, this bit of text here. So here's the bit of text we're concerned with. The visual angle of the bottom extreme, with the eye line being closer to the eye line, will always be smaller than that of the upper extreme. Right? So we can understand this if we look down a tunnel and then move our position, say, closer to the left wall. You'll get a shallower angle onto the wall on your left and a greater angle on the wall to your right. If you move down towards the floor, it'll be the same with the floor and the ceiling, and vice versa, and so on and so on. We all experience this, we maybe just don't think about it. So it's smaller to begin with and will remain smaller, even though both angles approach the same value if the distance is immensely great. Obviously all he's saying there is, like, once you get within, you know, when something's so far away, the angles involved will become very, very small. Okay? The final part. This is where the bullshit kicks in. If the visual limit were 5 degrees, what he's meaning here is, if 5 degrees were the limit beyond which point something drops below the eye's capability to resolve it. So if something drops below 5 degrees, you can't see it, essentially. If it were 5 degrees, then the bottom part of an object visibly divided into parts from top to bottom would no longer be distinctly visible at 4.76 degrees. Now he's got a diagram to match. Let me show you what he's talking about here in case the words don't quite sell it for you. Here's the line of sight, the blue line, the virtual line that represents the centre of the eye. And he's got the figures in here. It might be hard to make out, but you can just about make out that here's these two numbers, 4.76 degrees for the lower half below the eye line, and 9.46 degrees for the upper half above the eye line. What this clown, this supposed maths genius who understands geometry, is trying to claim is that this angle, or the angle of anything, I mean, it represents this angle, this object here, if you like, right? So this is the angle from top to bottom of your entire field of view, and what he's trying to claim is that the eye line, rather than just representing a virtual point at the centre of your eye, physically bisects whatever you're looking at and splits it into two separate angles. Now, in other words, what he's saying is that if this was, say, the Empire State Building, and you're standing down on the street, that the lower half of the building would individually subtend its own angle to your eye separately from the upper half of your vision, representing the taller, larger area of the building that's towering above you. So, yep, this is Gav's the fantastic genius who who claims he is going to come after Walter Bislin and strip down the machinations that must be happening with Walter's curve calculator. He's just produced a document which he thinks is fucking genius. He's just produced a document which he thinks makes him some great scientist, and he's done this fantastic research. And he's sitting here with a straight face telling you that the total angle of an object subtended to the eye can be split in two by the position of your eye. I can't even think of any other way to word it. If you don't understand the problem with it, this fucking retard is saying here. I'm sorry, but I am sick to death. Seeing these fucking people get away with this utter, despicable, just retarded bullshit. This is basic stuff. If this paper was submitted to any institution, and not because it's institutionalised, but just anybody whose job it was to mark a paper based on its content, this would get laughed at. And it's not because there's some big conspiracy, it's because this is complete bollocks, and it's the kind of idiotic idea that a child would come up with, that a virtual line is a literal bisection of your line of sight, that it splits objects into. Amazing, absolutely amazing. So obviously he goes on to claim, because of this fabled split in your field of view, that therefore the bottom half will reach this angle where it can no longer be resolved, and therefore objects disappear from the bottom up. Hey! Well done, Gav. And the sad part is that this is a classic example of a kind of sophist argument. I mean, I guess the thing with sophistry is it's supposed to be quite sophisticated, but in my opinion, this isn't sophisticated, this is retarded. But at the same time, it's a clever play on the geometry that's at the heart of optics, and most of these clowns all fall for it. Yes, Indio 007, I'm looking at you, son. And all the other parrots that come running to other people's channels to fucking repeat the same nonsense. And idiots like Hoxley who say the same thing by using different terminology like angle of attack. They all fall for it, they all buy into it. It's just a bullshit argument that doesn't stand up to real world scrutiny at all. It's got nothing to do with real world geometry. But the other side to it is that geometry, obviously, at its heart, a mathematical, concept, if you like. Sorry, he says, he says himself that he wants to look at the mathematics behind things, that obviously support the globe model and whatever. So this is his, here's a guy who on one hand sits and, feeds Dell this bullshit part of the script about maths is just a formal language and blah blah blah, and they can, and Dell will sit there and say, this is them using complex maths to confuse you, and fucking voila, guys. Who is the person who has actually written a paper specifically designed to fool people into believing something that's untrue using sophistry and mathematics? Oh yes. Gav, you're scum, mate. What you're doing here is fucking despicable to me. And just know that there are people who can see through your shit. As I told you about a year and a half ago on Wolfie's thread, your bullshit will pass with a certain type of person, and that's who you'll need to surround yourself with. But anybody else, forget it, alright? We can see through your fucking veil of bullshit. And especially when you do something this stupid, it's easy to spot. And just remember, Gav, the person who is making this video and calling you out on your sophistry, I don't have any training in maths. I'm no an expert in geometry or any of that shit. I am a fucking common man, as you guys like to say it. I am a layman. I don't have any formal training in any of this shit. This is just bog standard, everyday, obvious shit. And if I can see through it, you can guarantee, obviously, that people who do have far better education in these subjects can see how full of shit you are, Gav. So, stay in your echo chamber, if you want. Surround yourself by people who don't understand what it is you're really saying to see how wrong it is. But do not fucking sit there and try and dictate what other people should or shouldn't be saying as it pertains to the real world. Because unlike you, we're no fake as fuck. If you want to keep running your mouth off and claiming to be something better than you are, to have this education, well, I've got a challenge for you, buddy. You've been sitting for a year and a half, 2 years, spouting all this fucking nonsense about direct realism and practical examples. Let's fucking see it. Let's see the science, Gav. Let me see some practical examples for you. This fucking text document isn't a practical example of anything. Maybe it's an example of what a fucking idiot you are, or an example of what a liar you are, but it doesn't prove shit as far as the real world goes. It's not a practical example of anything. It's not something I can go and tangibly repeat for myself to verify. Is it now? No. You're a hypocrite, Gav. And you haven't got fucking anything practical to back up any of your bullshit. And neither has Dell. So, normally everybody focuses on Dell. Well, I'm focusing on you. Put up or shut up.